Let's talk to Brian Brooks, CEO of Binance US. And I wouldn't call it a fledgling ecosystem or industry right now, Brian. It's been around for a while, but maybe didn't anticipate that we'd be this far along. And is the infrastructure there? For example, at Binance, is the infrastructure there to handle something like yesterday without disruptions to your customers?
Well, Joe, it's a fantastic question, and thanks for having me here. I mean, look, we transacted about $3.5 billion of trading volume yesterday. This is on an exchange that's 22 months old, and we're building infrastructure fast enough to keep up with customer volume. Are we doing a good enough job? Probably not. But I would argue the problem is as much educating investors about this stuff as it is about building infrastructure, because I think we're at a point in time where many investors don't know the difference between Ethereum and Filecoin and Solana. They just all see it as crypto, and you wouldn't buy stocks that way. So I think we need to focus more on what these tokens represent, what the network value is that is backing them. And when we have that level of education, you're going to see some amount of the volatility go away.
Do you know anecdotally what was going on with Coinbase yesterday? I know it's not, you wouldn't know any more maybe than we do, Brian, but just looking at it, there were times where it just said you can't connect, or customers were getting little things that said, you can do something in an hour. It was bizarre. When there is an inability to buy, does that exacerbate, or sell, I guess, but does that exacerbate the moves down if no one can be there? If their inclination is to buy and they can't buy, how do you find a bottom?
Well, it's a great point about price discovery. And if you think about it in the equity markets, there are two sides of that debate. Sometimes we purposely make it in the equity markets so people can't buy, right? That's why we have circuit breakers when markets are moving too fast. That's not what happened yesterday, and I don't know what happened at Coinbase. On our exchange, we had a very brief outage on Ethereum withdrawals, which we put back together in less than an hour. But listen, when markets are moving that fast, sometimes you're going to have those problems. We need more robust infrastructure, no question about it, and we're hiring fast to build that.
Now, we've talked about that. Now let's just talk about crypto, Brian. We've seen so many asset classes in this environment with zero interest rates basically, and a Fed on hold, and with all this QE and all this money sloshing around, is this a real asset class, or is it a reflection of, is it a Beeple NFT? Where does it come? Is it gold? Is it a currency? Are you still, you've had a big government job, so I mean, you I think lend some credibility to the whole industry, but there are some questions going around again now, based on colonial, based on China, based on regulatory issues, based on all these things. A lot of worries, a lot of headwinds.
Yeah, well, look, my personal view is calling crypto an asset class is sort of like calling stocks an asset class. And most of us don't really think about it that way, except in a broad way. If you think about it for a minute, we think about tech stocks versus industrials versus financials. Or even within tech stocks, HP is very different from eBay, is very different from Apple. And I think, again, the education level of investors on this needs to be a lot better. Ethereum is a different business from Solana, and that's a different business from Protocol Labs. You need to understand what it is that you're buying. And people are increasingly sophisticated about that, and yet you still hear stories of guys on the train just randomly poking around on CoinMarketCap to buy any crypto asset. That's the wrong way to think about it. Many of these things are going to go to zero, like happens in the stock market, but some of these things are going to be foundational technologies with real value for generations. That's what we're trying to build here. People need to get that.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.